Hey everyone, today we're taking a look at a playwright who brought poetry roaring back to life on the 20th century British stage, the one and only Christopher Fry. So let's set the scene. Imagine the theater right after World War II. Everything was about gritty realism, tough, straight to the point prose. So in that world, writing a play in verse, that was almost revolutionary. It felt like a huge step backward. You gotta ask, who would even dare to try something like that? Well, that challenge was met head-on by Christopher Fry. And he didn't just write in verse. He made it sing. He made it feel vibrant, witty, totally essential for a modern audience. He proved that poetic language wasn't just some old, dusty thing. It could hit hard and resonate on a stage that was dealing with very real, very new problems. Okay, so how did he pull it off? That brings us to his most amazing contribution, the revival of verse drama. He basically took this old form and just breathed completely new life into it. First things first, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What is verse drama? Basically, it's a play where the dialogue isn't just everyday chit-chat. It's got rhythm, it's got meter, it's poetry. Think Shakespeare. But then imagine that style brought bang up to date for the 20th century. Fry's style was, well, it was like a master chef's recipe. The ingredients were just perfect. You had this beautiful, almost musical language, but then bam, he'd hit you with this sharp wit and really deep, thoughtful ideas. He wasn't afraid to get into religious imagery and big philosophical concepts, all while keeping this incredible sense of wonder about the world. And look, this wasn't just him showing off his writing skills. This was a huge deal for the culture at the time. Fry became this massively important figure because he gave audiences a way to connect with these big, classical and religious ideas in a way that felt fresh and, well, human. And this was right after the war, a time when people were desperate for meaning. All right, so let's get into the plays themselves and see how this all works in practice. Because Fry was an absolute master at mixing comedy with these really profound questions about life, death, and everything in between. And this is the one that really put him on the map, The Lady's Not for Burning. It landed in 1948 and was a total smash hit. And yeah, it's called a comedy, but don't let that fool you. It's wrestling with some seriously heavy stuff, disillusionment, love, and whether anyone can truly be redeemed. The core of the play is this fantastic clash of characters. On one side, you've got Thomas Mendip, a soldier who is so completely done with the world that he literally wants to be hanged. And on the other side, you have Janet Jourdemain, a woman accused of being a witch who is desperately fighting to live. The whole play is basically their witty, poetic arguments, which really get to the heart of what makes life worth living. And man, was Fry on a roll in those post-war years. The Lady's Not for Burning was just the beginning. He immediately followed it up with more plays that dug even deeper into what people were feeling at the time, the anxieties about war, faith, and what it all means. And that takes us into some of his heavier work. Because Fry wasn't just about witty comedies. He used that same incredible poetic voice to stare right into the darker, more chaotic parts of being human, especially the trauma of war and the struggle to keep faith. Let's look at A Sleep of Prisoners. I mean, the setup alone is just so powerful. You have 4 soldiers trapped in a church in the middle of a war. But the real action, the real drama, that all happens in their dreams, where they have no choice but to face their guilt and their deepest fears. What Fry does here is brilliant. He uses these dreams to tap into these ancient, powerful biblical stories. The soldiers' dreams basically become a battlefield for their own souls. It forces them, and us, to ask, how can you believe in anything good when there's so much violence? You get this incredible tension between the holy, sacred space they're in and the ugly reality of war just outside the doors. And then we have The Dark is Light Enough. Fry drops us right into the middle of the violent Hungarian Revolution of 1848 to ask a question that's still so relevant today. When the world is just tearing itself apart, is there any room left for things like pacifism and compassion? Can those ideals actually survive? And the entire moral weight of that question lands on the shoulders of one character, Countess Rosamiron. She is the struggle personified. Through her, Fry really makes you wonder, is sticking to nonviolence a truly noble thing, or is it just a naive fantasy when you're staring down pure brutality? So, where does that leave us? Let's talk about Christopher Fry's legacy. What did he leave behind, and why are we still talking about him today? When you look at the big picture, his legacy is huge. He proved that verse drama wasn't some stuffy old thing to be kept in a museum. It could be exciting, modern, and gripping. He tackled the biggest questions about life and philosophy, but did it with humor and style, not boring lectures. And by doing that, he really paved the way for generations of playwrights who came after him. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. Fry was writing for a world that was absolutely reeling from chaos. And yet, his work is just filled with this sense of wonder, this constant search for meaning. So, in our own turbulent times, maybe the question is, what can we learn from a voice like his? A voice that insisted on finding the poetry and the hope, even when things seemed